behind the time, so shall I go into the meeting? Co-organized by IUC Coordination Unit in Brussels and the IUC team in Japan. And I am Hidefumi Imura, team leader of the IUC Japan. We will have another webinar the day after tomorrow at the same time exactly. The two meetings will discuss how cities can accelerate a sustainable energy transition and boost a circular economy at the local level. We focus on energy transition today, and the day after tomorrow we'll shed light to circular economy. But as you know, these two topics are very closely related to each other. Moreover, they are also very close to climate change issues. And we already had a webinar on global covenant of mayors in Japan 2 weeks ago. Thus, the city's webinars as a whole are in line with the objectives of the SDGs and the Paris Agreement. Now, I would like to jump into the meeting. First, I would like to invite Rudolf NIESSLER, Principal Advisor for International Relations, Director General for Regional Policy, European Commission. Please, NIESSLER, please.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, good morning and good afternoon. My name is Rudolf NIESSLER, and I'm the Principal Advisor for International Relations at the Directorate General for Regional and Urban Policy of the European Commission. I would like to welcome you to this event dealing with the cooperation between partners from the European and Japanese cities within the International Urban Cooperation Project in the field of energy transition. As you know, since several years, the European Union has increasingly supported actions to implement the new urban agenda of the United Nations, following the priorities and themes of the urban agenda of the European Union and the Sustainable Development Goals. Projects like IUC have defined some thematic networks, namely in the field of energy transition and circular economy, for the cooperation and implementation of pilot projects among local governments, research, businesses, and civil society. One of IUC's principles of operation is to develop a win-win partnership logic of mutual exchange and cooperation, providing not only technical support to the involved cities from the EU and Japan, but also identifying and strengthening their concrete cooperation possibilities within the project's thematic sectors. Implemented since 2017, the IUC project has become the world's largest city-to-city cooperation program, involving 165 cities from the EU and non-EU countries in Japan, but also in North and Latin America, China and India. The IUC is an example of the way local authorities can more effectively achieve their goals in partnership with the key stakeholders. Cities have elaborated urban cooperation action plans, which include concrete pilot actions under implementation. In Japan, cooperation is framed within the EU-Japan Urban Policy Dialogue, in which the City Bureau of the Ministry of Land, Infrastructure, Transport and Tourism, MOLIT, is our counterpart, as well as from 2018 onwards, the EU-Japan Strategic Partnership Agreement. As you know, we have involved 10 cities from Japan and 10 cities from Europe, which have all of them achieved remarkable results, especially in the energy transition towards low carbon development, as well as on the circular economy. I'm impatient to listen to your presentations and discussions at these respects. The IUC project offers as well very good framework to deal with complex issues such as the COVID crisis at local level. It's likely that we are experiencing now what will have far-reaching repercussions for the urban community. Factors like population density, city planning, and technology will come under scrutiny. Like all epidemics, the current one will most likely serve as a catalyst for urban transformation. And I'm convinced that by acting together through initiatives like the IUC, cities will be able to steer the ship out of the crisis into a brighter future. Indeed, in 2021, we will build on the IUC success so far through the launch of a second IUC phase to be called the International Urban and Regional Cooperation, Sustainable and Innovative Cities and Regions. I want to say that the European Commission is proud to continue to support the IUC program. And this sends a clear message that cities and regions play a critical role in sustainable development, and this role will only become ever more important with the implementation of the EU Green Deal. Unlike in the current IUC city-to-city cooperation model, in the IURC, cities will primarily work in thematic clusters that focus on a theme based on the United Nations New Urban Agenda and the Urban Agenda of the European Union. Cities who wish to develop a more intensive cooperation with a European partner will also be able to pursue one-to-one pairings, as it is the case now. The nature of cooperation in clusters and city pairs will be outlined again in urban cooperation action plans, which will lay out actions that cities collaboratively identify to take on during the 18 to 24 months of their cooperation. Let me underline another important aspect at this respect. We very much hope that this new organization of the cities cooperation in thematic hubs will make it easier to include all appropriate stakeholders, including from the national level in the networks. In other words, the new program will have an enhanced focus on multi-level governance. Ladies and gentlemen, one very important aspect of city-to-city cooperation is mutual learning, not only between cities within one country or region, but cross-regional, cross-national learning. For that, let me finalize by saying that we expect the future IURC learning platform to play a more important role to make IURC a real global program. And as we are discussing with our partners in UN Habitats, we plan to link the IURC platform with the New Urban Agenda platform to create further opportunities to share lessons learned and new approaches on city-to-city cooperation. I wish to conclude my remarks by saying once more that thanks to you, the connection between the global and the local level is now a reality more than ever, helping us to mobilize local institutions for the Sustainable Development Agenda and to improve the quality of life of our citizens. I wish you a fruitful meeting and thank you for your attention.
Professor, I'm afraid you're muted.
Thank you very much, Rudolf NIESSLER. I noted very important messages from your speech about the evaluation of our past activities as well as the future IURC program. Thank you very much. Then may I invite the next speaker for setting the scene, Eero, AILIO, Advisor, Energy Transition and Local Governance, Directorate General for Energy, European Commission. Please, Eero, AILIO.
Thank you, Professor Imura. Good morning, good evening, all of you fans of the IUC program. It's a great pleasure to open this event after my colleague, Mr. NIESSLER. And what I want to say is a couple of words about the setting that we operate in. I think the global scientific community is impressively unanimous about the threat of climate change and the role of clean energy transition to prevent it from turning into a full catastrophe. January next year, we should finally have both Europe, Japan, United States, and China at least agreeing on this problem and hopefully ready to step up their actions too. The recovery from the COVID pandemic will be a test in this sense. EU, we intend to put at least 37% from the recovery billions to actions with climate impact. After all, we must spend wisely the money that we borrow from the market and that our children are expected to pay back to lenders later on. The Green Deals have become an international buzzword, but I think the question is how many governments at the end will have the courage to support real green recovery, like windmills and solar panels, instead of putting the money into brown recovery like fossil fuel subsidies. That's a test. The European approach to energy transition has three elements. One of them is the fact that we combine top-down legislation with investment support and bottom-up voluntary initiatives, just like Covenant of Mayors for Climate and Energy, or, for instance, the coal regions in transition. These are the three elements, and the Europe is maybe quite unique in having actually a law that obliges European Union member states to involve their local and regional governments in planning in national energy and climate plans. And these are the kind of very important plans that together build the strategy of the EU to fulfill its nationally determined contribution under the Paris Agreement. So competitive markets are an important ally in energy transition. That's also why we have the emission trading system, the cap and trade system. We have very fresh laws that bring renewable energies to markets without subsidies. We want to offer consumers dynamic electricity contracts. We want to spread smart technologies and all these kinds of things. But the fact is that leaving this transition only to the markets would be too slow. So that's why we have published recently a sustainable finance taxonomy, a first ever, this kind of a common yardstick for investors to compare the sustainability of businesses and hopefully channel investments into clean technologies. It's also why we give absolute priority to energy efficiency and building renovation and raising awareness of the public on that now. We combine these energy efficiency efforts with more distributed renewable energies, also with demand response, building offshore wind parks and reinforcing electricity grids to make this all work. Local energy communities are a booming new activity where cities and active citizens come into the center of action and actually create local jobs in cities. Today, actually, every European has the right to use solar, wind, biogas, storage, and other technologies to either generate, to use, to sell, or exchange their own energy. Now, together with technologies like electrification, of course, green hydrogen, these local communities are very important allies for the central governments when we try to rapidly change our energy system to such that we can reach carbon neutrality. This green and digital transition must also be a just transition in order for it to succeed. And that is why we help coal-dependent regions to shift their economies and to reskill their workers to new, more sustainable jobs. On top of that, we work with cities, for instance, in the Covenant of Mayors initiative, to reduce energy poverty. Because again, just transition means that we cannot leave people behind in this process. I'm giving all these examples actually to show how relevant the IUC program is when we look at it from the energy point of view. And I want to really thank Professor Imura and all the Japanese and European cities which are going to be talking today, and also other colleagues and friends for making the IUC program such a success. And it's also for that reason that I've actually advertised the IUC program during the EU-Japan high-level energy dialogue. I've been maybe a bit less successful than my colleague Rudolf NIESSLER in attracting the interest of the Japanese side there, but I hope that will change soon, because now both Europe and Japan are revising their commitments towards the climate neutrality. So one thing is certain, we will have a much better chance to reach the goals, our climate and energy goals, by involving ambitious cities than by resorting only to traditional top-down policies. Thank you very much, and let's have a very good seminar today. Thank you.
Thank you, Eero, AILIO. Thank you very much for your speech, especially with respect to the Japan's climate policy. We expect that our government policy will be changed very soon, I hope. Thank you very much. Then can I move to the next agenda? I would like to invite a few cities which are very good, successful experiences. First, I would like to invite the tellings of Grenoble-Alpes, Metropole, and the Toyota City. So from Grenoble-Alpes, Metropole, GAMS, I would like to invite Anne-Elisabeth COTTE, and from Toyota, Mr. Yasuji NAKAGAMI. They present this presentation by recorded video. And also, I'd like to mention one important person, Eddie Kakta, coordinator of this pairing. She will start speaking, and then the other persons will follow. Can I ask? Yes, to start.
Thank you, Ingrid. I'm Erika Kuta, an IUC coordinator. Now we will have presentations by a pair of Grenoble-Alpes, Metropole, France, and Toyota City, Japan. In October 2018, Grenoble-Alpes, Metropole, and Toyota City started a project with a main theme of building a smart city. They have set their action goals, and one of them has been increasing the production and use of renewable energy. Today, we'll start with presentation of hydrogen policy, followed by Toyota City and mobility policy using renewable energy. Good morning, everybody. I am Anne-Elisabeth. I am in charge of innovation matters in the field of energy at the Grenoble Metropole. Unfortunately, I could not attend the meeting, but I'm glad I could register my pitch, and Gabriel will be able to reply to all your questions. Grenoble is a major hub for new energy technologies and hosts a large number of companies and research capacities on biomass, solar energy, power storage and batteries, hydropower, energy efficiency and smart buildings, hydrogen and fuel cell. 17,000 people are working in energy tech in the Grenoble area. Some in big companies like Air Liquide, Schneider Electric, General Electric, ENGIE, Siemens, Atos, or in startups and SMEs like McPhee, Silfen, NRB, or doing research at the CEA V10 on renewable energies. This slide to show you a few numbers on the employment in the energy sector in Grenoble. To focus on hydrogen, Grenoble hosts a large number of hydrogen actors, from the research like CEA V10, which we've just mentioned, to the production with Air Liquide, through many industrial startups on hydrogen technologies, like, for instance, Silfen, which is developing a solution on energy storage and combined heat and power system for buildings, or Symbio, which is active on the field of fuel cell systems for vehicles. Since 2014, there is a political will to support this emerging economy. Grenoble is supporting this economy through its economic policy, but also through its air quality policy. To give visibility to this economy, we organized in 2016 national event, the Hydrogen Days, which gathered 300 representatives of territories and companies. At that time, it was a lot for hydrogen. Nowadays, the same event would gather from 700 to 800 people. Hydrogen is growing, as you could notice. Grenoble is also actively involved in hydrogen projects like the mobility project, highway and zero emission valley. As far as the highway project is concerned, it was developed from 2014 till 2016 in the region. It is a regional project funded by the EU, aiming at launching the Europe-wide largest fleet of hydrogen vehicle, in that case, Kangoos from Renault. With this project, GAM became a pioneer territory in France on hydrogen mobility. Ever since, 50 Kangoos are circulating between Lyon and Grenoble, and 2 refiling stations have been set up, one in Lyon, one in Grenoble. In 2019, we joined the Zero Emission Valley project, which is the regional project aiming at deploying 1,000 vehicles and 20 refiling stations in the Auvergne-Rhône-Alpes region. Grenoble is in charge of the management of the project on its territory. It has accepted to handle this project for the following reasons. First of all, and we have already mentioned it, to support the emerging economy sector on hydrogen solutions, to improve the air quality in coherence with its air energy climate plan, and to help professionals change their vehicles in favor of a cleaner one through a subsidy system. This project is funded by the EU, the national state, the French national state, and the region. This map shows the network of refiling stations throughout the region, which will be achieved by the Zero Emission Valley project. On my last slide, I wanted to point out a few innovations which have been developed by companies or laboratories in Grenoble. You can see the Smart Energy Hub by Silsan, which we mentioned earlier, the refining station by Liquid, the fuel cell by Symbio, and the electrolyzer by Baxi. I thank you for listening to my presentation. I hope it was clear. I'm looking forward to meeting you soon. Bye.
Now, I would like to talk about the initiative of Toyota City. My name is Yasuji Nakagami, Director, Advanced City Promotion Division, Planning Department, Toyota City. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to make a speech today. We aim for sustainable town development, focusing on demonstration projects that use advanced technology in collaboration with companies. We are studying energy policies such as the spread of next generation automobiles, mobility policies such as autonomous driving, and the use of renewable energy. Our division considers various demonstration projects and energy policies to achieve the SDGs. Toyota City was selected by the national government as an environmental model city in 2009 and has continued its effort in the field of industry, public welfare, transportation, and forest, with the aim of 70% reduction in CO2 emissions. Last year, in 2019, we declared zero carbon city to reduce CO2 emissions to virtually zero in 2050. Using what we learned from our experience as an environmental model city, we will accelerate our efforts. At the same time, we aim to reduce the remaining 30% and realize sustainably zero CO2 emissions by activity incorporating new technological innovation. It is an example of the measures we have implemented. We have been actively implementing various initiatives. In the future, while accelerating the development of existing technology and promoting maximum energy saving, we will create new technological innovation and actively use it to regenerate the energy used. Toyota City is actively introducing fuel cell vehicles and buses to realize a hydrogen-based society. As infrastructure, there are 2 hydrogen stations in the city, and the third is currently under construction. In addition, as a car town, we are promoting various initiatives with an emphasis on the spread of next generation automobiles. Next, we will introduce some examples of its use. Next generation vehicles such as hybrid vehicles, plug-in hybrid vehicles, fuel cell vehicles, and electric vehicles are manufactured and sold domestically and overseas. Next generation vehicles are electric vehicles and have the function of outputting electric power to the outside. In order to use this external power supply and build a mechanism to effectively use it in the required society. In the event of a disaster, the Sakura project was started in collaboration with automobile manufacturers and dealers in the city. Next generation automobiles are also equipped with disaster prevention functions. So to speak, they are running storage batteries. In the event of a disaster, a car will carry electricity to the required location, and one car can generate and supply electricity for about 4 days in a general household. By promoting a mechanism to increase, connect, and use the external power supply function, it will contribute to the reduction of CO2 emissions in Japan and overseas, and the improvement of disaster prevention function. We will work towards the expansion of this project, both domestically and internationally, like the cherry blossom where each petal gathers and blooms. Finally, let me make one announcement. On March 6, 2021, an international conference called Think SDGs Conference in Toyota 2021 will be held online. The environment and life surrounding you have changed dramatically due to the coronavirus. At this conference, we will discuss various themes towards the realization of a sustainable society. In addition, we are planning to have you participate from Grenoble, an IUC project partner city. In this way, we would like to keep the partnership with Grenoble connected through the IUC project and continue sharing information and exchanging opinions. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much.
Nakagami-san, I know a pair of GAM and Toyota
Yes.
to collaborate in hydrogen-related innovation. Last February, a bilateral conference on new energy system was held in Grenoble, France, and last May, a pair had an online exchange to discuss a joint target setting and monitoring on the progress of initiatives by sharing experiences and solutions. We are looking forward to their further collaboration.
Okay, thank you very much, our GAM, Grenoble-Alpes Metropole, and the Toyota colleagues. Thank you very much for your very valuable information about the hydrogen, fuel cell, and the next generation mobility vehicles. Thank you very much. Then we have a very special guest from Canada, the city of Guelph. The city is not a member of IUC Japan, but at this precious opportunity, we are very pleased to have its presentation. Now, can I invite the Bryan Hoyan to make his presentation, please?
Good day, everyone. I'm excited to share everyone today. I'm excited to share everyone. 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 Good day, everyone. I'm excited to share with the group today our IUC program initiative. My name is Bryan Hoyan, and I am the manager of corporate energy and climate change with the city of Guelph. For a bit of context, the city of Guelph is a growing, diverse, and vibrant community of about 132,000 people. Guelph's community partners and business leaders are making a difference locally and globally in agri-food, technology, environmental enterprise, and advanced manufacturing industries. The city's healthy local economy, thriving arts and culture scene, charming neighborhoods, parks, and green spaces make Guelph among the most livable cities in Canada. Environment is important to Guelph, and as such, climate change and energy management was chosen to be the focus of our work. I always like to start things off with the statement, energy management is more than projects. Don't get me wrong, I like projects. Every time we have an equipment upgrade or increase insulation in a building, we're taking real action to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and conserve energy. But what about when the project is done? How well did it save energy? Are personnel properly trained to have the energy savings last? How do we let stakeholders know to keep them engaged and keep the projects rolling? Successful energy management needs a systematic approach. The City of Guelph is implementing the ISO 50001 Energy Management System Framework across the whole organization. This is a framework that employs the Plan, Do, Check, Act model and mandates the development of an energy policy and the setting of clear objectives and action plans to achieve energy savings organization-wide. It requires the use of data to inform decision-making and to measure and track progress. Regular reviews are performed to ensure lessons are learned and applied towards continuous improvement. Why ISO 50001? Well, a few years ago, the city developed the community plan, which was based on engagement with residents, business owners, industry, and institutions. Environment was identified as one of the most important parts of Guelph's identity and well-being. The city then responded with the strategic plan and set clear climate change targets, being the corporate 100% renewable energy by 2050 target and the community net zero carbon by 2050 target. The framework directly aligns with these plans and targets. Organizational behavior and awareness is at the root of the framework. It mandates accountable leadership, clear direction, and staff engagement, all key ingredients for success. It also promotes knowledge sharing and communications internally and externally. Finally, ISO 50001 is an internationally recognized best practice adopted by numerous organizations, big and small, and of all types, cities included. We are currently in the process of implementing. We started with a gap analysis review of how the city was managing energy and how that compared to the ISO 50001 requirements. From this, we have been able to establish a path to filling in the gaps while leveraging the work we are already doing. We've worked with top management and presented the case for ISO 50001 and have their support for implementation. We've employed an energy management information system that tracks energy use data for all of our facilities, process equipment, and fleet vehicles. This year and last year, we communicated our results and shared project highlights with the public through our annual environmental sustainability report. In addition, there's also been a lot of peer learning. Unfortunately, the uptake of ISO 50001 has been relatively slower in North America and practically non-existent in Canadian municipalities. However, through the City-to-City IUC program, where we were partnered with Regio, Croatia, we had the opportunity to visit an ISO-certified pharmaceutical plant and tour their facility and share in their certification process. The following year, Murcia, Spain, hosted members from Guelph and Regio to share their experiences with ISO 50001 as they were in the process of certifying a few of their facilities. At home, we have also connected with different industries to learn from their ISO 50001 processes. As we are in the process of implementing ISO 50001, there has been real growth throughout the organization when it comes to energy management. Clear energy and climate change targets have been set. There are bold targets and have become a focal point for the organization to strive towards. Actual data is being tracked and used to make better decisions. An example of this is our work with the provincial and federal governments to change to electric transit buses. Data had shown that our diesel bus fleet is one of the organization's largest greenhouse gas emissions contributors. Organizational awareness has grown. Our finance group uses utility data to more accurately forecast operating budgets and variances. Our operations and maintenance groups are looking for energy upgrades to more efficiently operate equipment, such as refrigeration controls at our arenas and modulating blowers at our wastewater treatment plant. Design and construction is incorporating energy efficient standards. We are completing detailed design of a community pool and arena facility that will meet zero carbon building design standards. Finally, there are two big wins, and they are that the public continues to provide their support behind our environmental initiatives, and that we are achieving real-life energy savings. For 2019, there was a measured reduction in city facilities and fleet energy consumption by 2.2 million kilowatt hours equivalent. Finally, it's been my pleasure to share our IUC experience with you. I'd like to thank you for your interest. And also, I wanted to say thank you to the IUC and our city partner, Regio, Croatia, for all of their support. Take care.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Actually, city of Guelph belongs to another IUC network. But in any case, in the next phase, we will further enhance our cooperation in a sense, trans-regional cooperation. Maybe we will have a chance to cooperate with Guelph, Canada. Thank you very much. Then I move to the next speaker, English KONRAD, Chief Architect, City of Bratislava, and the Miyuki Yoshida of the Environment Policy Division of the City of Tokorozawa. Actually, the energy transition is very much related to climate change issues. So next presentation will focus not so much the mitigation aspect, but to adaptation aspect of climate change. Then I invite Ingrid KONRAD to speak.
Of Tokorozawa and Bratislava. With our partner city Tokorozawa, we agreed that our main goal of cooperation should be climate change adaptation through urban green infrastructure. We were working in three principal topics. The first one is using green infrastructure to improve climate resiliency and adapt urban areas to the effect of climate change, such as flooding and urban heat islands. Second one, green infrastructure for sustainable urban development and mobility, as planting of trees along walkways and bike lanes, supporting of biodiversity, implementation of permeable surfaces, and last but not least, promoting the values of urban green infrastructure. And finally, green infrastructure management as protection of green areas, promenades, forests and springs, and the urban tree inventory. Big things often have a small beginning. Let us continue our presentation with two projects from Bratislava and two from Tokorozawa. Due to climate change, Bratislava has suffered from significant weather changes such as more frequent heat waves, drought and heavy rains, causing flooding in the city. So far, our city has not created a protective mechanism for rainwater management, except for the usual rainwater drainage system, which does not have capacity to withstand heavy rainfalls. In addition to the technical infrastructure, we have to build a natural infrastructure, and retention of raining water should be a part of investment projects. It was very inspiring to see what other protection mechanisms Tokorozawa is using in the public spaces: effective rainwater management through greenery, safety dry corridors, underground water systems, disaster risk management, and risk maps. Bratislava has some of these elements into its climate change adaptation strategy too, but in the practice, we have no many best practices. One of our problems are the alleys around the city roads. Solutions with trees planted in the lawns do not support biodiversity. Trees are due to drought and radiant heat from the road surface in very bad condition. Conventional irrigation is not effective because the water from the dried area evaporates or drains quickly. We learn from Tokorozawa. The alleys in our partner city are planted with a layer of shrubs under the trees. This slows down evaporation, retains water, promotes biodiversity, and improves the microclimate of the urban environment. We are currently applying the experience from Tokorozawa to one of our city projects. In contrast to drought, as one of the effects of climate change are extremely heavy rains. We shot this video during our visit in Japan in May 2019. It speaks for itself. Japanese cities are exposed to much more intense natural elements, heavy rain, earthquakes, typhoons, but they are also much better prepared for such disasters. We in Europe have a lot to learn when adapting to climate change. One of the good examples from Tokorozawa is the city's risk management, the city's readiness to protect the health of the population in the event of disaster through an earlier warning system, the Tokorozawa disaster plan. Following the example of our partner, we started preparing the risk management plan in one of the endangered localities in the city. In the city park, Racha, we were working on the creation of a map showing the necessary areas for rainwater retention, which we located on the basis of our digital city model. We propose a concept of protection of one specific area in case of heavy rains. We verify resistance parameters and what protective measures need to be implemented in the area. Green infrastructure increases resilience to climate change and mitigates the effects of climate change in urban areas such as floods. It is important to separate rainwater from the sewage system and capture it in the area, for example, in the form of rain gardens and dry polders. The analysis of a specific district shows us that detailed data and information about the area are very important for the creation of such maps as Bratislava Disaster Plan. At the municipality of Bratislava, it is necessary to constantly specify supplement these data together with other stakeholders in the territory.
In order to manage them as green infrastructure for sustainable urban development, we support individual and group volunteers who are eager to promote greenery. City gives them materials and opportunities for their activities. We believe it is important for the city and citizens to work together to create and conserve sustainable green infrastructure. Thank you for listening.
Our policy for environment in Bratislava is to revitalize city parks and public spaces in order to expand green spaces and increase the city's resilience to climate change. By 2022, we will have planted 10,000 trees. The tradition of caring for nature and the love of trees is deeply rooted in Japanese history. I look forward to working with the city of Tokorozawa, and I'm sending many greetings from Bratislava to Japan. Our policy for environment.
Okay, thank you very much, Bratislava and Tokorozawa colleagues. Especially, it was a great pleasure to have the message statement by Bratislava Mayor Barrow. Thank you very much. Now, we don't have much time to discuss. But we can receive one or two questions from the floor. Because we have Gabriel VOISIN-FRADIN from Grenoble present, COTTE, unfortunately, she is absent today. Maybe I can I would like to invite Gabriel to say a few words to supplement what Anne presented. Gabriel, please. Gabriel, you here? No. I miss Gabriel. So maybe I would like to invite any questions or comments from the floor. Okay. Oh. Then may I ask one question to GAMS and the Toyota. How do they cooperate between the city government and the industries, especially Toyota City? You know, it's a home ground of the famous Toyota Motor Company. What kind of cooperation between the local government and the companies like Toyota Motor Company? Do you have any comments about that? Nakami-san, okay. Can I?
中上です。はい。トヨタ市とトヨタ自動車の関係なんですが、トヨタ自動車だけじゃなくてですね、いわゆる民間企業、約80社の民間企業とですね、つながる社会実証推進協議会という協議会を設けておりまして、トヨタ市をフィールドにしてですね、いろんな企業さんに、トヨタ市でいろんな事業をやっていただくっていうような取り組みをしております。当然ですね、その中でトヨタさんとの関係というのは強いものがありまして、今でもですね、10件ぐらいの実証事業という形でですね、トヨタ市をフィールドに、トヨタ自動車さんにいろんな新しい取り組みをやっていただいているという、そういう関係がございます。協議会を作って、そこの場でですね、いろんな企業さんとの連携の枠組みを作っております。以上です。
Thank you very much. Then can I ask one more question to the Tokorozawa, because they are promoting a lot of measures, you know, for the climate adaptation. For instance, the planting trees will cool the environment. We prevent the heat island. I just wonder whether you have you conducted any studies about how you can reduce energy use by promoting those adaptation measures, such as promoting green infrastructure or planting trees. Do you have any idea or any exercise about that?
こんにちは、所沢市の宮崎です。ですね、研究の材料はですね、なかなかちょっとうちの方でも揃っていない部分多くあるんですけれども、こちらの方はですね、所沢市でも今月の3日にですね、ゼロカーボンシティに宣言することとなりまして、いろんな取り組みを進めているところでございます。海がなかったりですね、山がなかったりというところで、太陽光をメインにですね、公共施設ですとか、一般家庭、民間企業にも広まっていくようにですね、各種補助金を用意したりですとか、そういったところでですね、再生可能エネルギーの比率を高めていこうというところとですね、そういった地域の再エネの電源を生かしてですね、新電力事業にも出資しておりまして、来年の1月からになるんですけれども、一般家庭向けへの電力の供給も開始していこうという、そういった状況でございます。省エネを進めるっていうこととですね、あとは再生可能エネルギーの比率を高めていくっていうこととですね、合わせて、どうしても地球温暖化避けられない問題ではありますので、木を植えてですね、木陰を創出したりですとか、そういった涼やかな、歩いて過ごせるような街づくりを目指してですね、いろいろな研究を進めているところです。以上です。
Okay, thank you very much, Yasuji-san. Actually, I would like to inform especially to the European cities, that there are many Japanese cities, increasing number of Japanese cities committed to zero carbon neutrality. It's a very similar movement taking place in Japan. I would like to just inform this to you. Then according to the agenda, then if there are any special questions, otherwise, I don't note any questions raised from the floor. So I would like to give the floor to Giorgia and the KATAOKA san to chair the next moderate the next session, please.
Thank you so much, Professor. Just a second. Okay. Well, first of all, I want to say hello to everyone, and thank you very much for the opportunity to host this session today and for participating. It's wonderful to see so many different cities that have been cooperating for such a long time, coming together to discuss such important topic as the energy transition. I was listening very, very attentively the presentations and all the insights that we have been discussing today, and I think there is already so much that is being put on the floor. We have been talking about new technologies. We have been talking about a transition that is fair for all, that also takes into account the vulnerable population. We even started touching upon the aspect that relates to fostering resilience within our cities, also to facilitate the reduction of emission and to make our own energy system safer. So I think there is so much already to be discussed, and it's a great setting for us also to start conversating for the next 50 minutes. That's the time that roughly we have for our conversation. We would like to kick off a more interactive part of our event today through a moderated discussion. We want to bring forward a little bit of an idea of how can we imagine, how can we envisage, and how can we reach a sustainable energy system by 2050. So the discussion today will really try to revolve around one key question. And the quick question is, how does the energy system of a climate neutral city look like in 2050? And we want to have your help and your suggestion to really try to envisage this together and to put on the table ideas, of course, for solutions, but also maybe to share together what are the pending challenges that we will need to face in the short term, in the medium term, and in the long term. So to do this wonderful voyage with you today, I will have the pleasure to have a colleague that will accompany me, Yatsuka KATAOKA. Hello, Yatsuka, can you hear us?
Yes, hello. Hello, Giorgia. Introducing me. Thank you very much.
Hi, thank you very much for being with us today and for helping me co-moderating this session. So to get us started, maybe some food for thought from my side. According to the latest REN21 report, the renewable electricity itself saw a global growth, especially in the field of solar PV, in continued acceleration. The same we can also witness for wind power and other kinds of renewable energy technology. In particular, we have about an increase of about 11% in terms of solar energy that is being implemented worldwide, and a 30% growth in the wind energy market since 2017. Overall, we can say that the global power generation capacity has increased of 63% when it comes to renewables in 2018. So the markers are really clear. There is indeed a lot of interest in fostering more technologies and accelerating this renewable energy uptake in our societies. Nonetheless, most of the electricity that we consume, it's actually in different sectors. In particular, we have roughly a 48% of the energy consumption in heating and cooling, a 32% that relates to transport and mobility, and only a 20% that then relates to electricity. This, of course, invites us to reflect upon what kind of changes are needed to shift from an energy system approach to a proper transition to the overarching system in a more inclusive manner. So not looking just about production, but trying to address really all of these other sectors that are interlinked so closely with our energy transition. So how do we couple, for example, heating, cooling, transport? How do we link renewable energy and energy efficiency? And we just heard from Tokorozawa how they are doing it through this two-pronged approach, for example. And most of all, how do we align national, subnational, and local policies to make sure that this is efficient? So these are just some of the many questions, of course, that we need to ask ourselves while we are envisaging our system of the future. So I would like to ask my colleague Nicola to please put on the background this little picture, this little map that we have prepared for you. So we will start to have a conversation here, envisaging how do we want to have an energy system for a climate neutral cities in 2050? What are the measures, the challenges, and the solutions that we envisage to want to implement by 2030? And what is that we need to do now to make sure that this happens and that we can go along this pathway for the future? We will collect all of your input, the priorities that you identify, the challenges that you identify, the solutions that we discuss. And after this conversation today, we will send back to you a mapping of the results of our discussion, not only to, of course, inspire you in your day-to-day activity, but also to give you some food for thought for continuing your cooperation for the future. So we really hope that this exercise can help you not only within your own local government, but also to think about some ideas that you can share with others and really to bring to the table in your next cooperation. So maybe Yatsuka, what do you think? We can start perhaps asking some questions to our cities right now. Where do we want to start, Yatsuka? Maybe with the challenges, I guess. What do you think?
It's challenging, but maybe you can start asking questions to the cities. Yes.
Perfect. Okay, maybe then I would like to ask everyone in the room, when you think about your energy system for your climate neutral city, and we heard that many Japanese and European cities are going in the direction now, how does it look like for you? So maybe to kick off the discussion, I would like to give the floor to some of the cities that have been presenting now. I'm hoping that Gabriel's mic starts to work. It would be wonderful to hear a little bit more, for example, about how Grenoble did envisage its energy system of the future when starting to look into becoming a real hub for the energy transition, for example. But also maybe asking Bratislava, how are you envisaging your city in 2050? And then, of course, everyone else in the room, please share your thoughts. Who wants to start?
Hello, can you hear me? Ingrid.
We can hear you. Hello, Ingrid.
Hello.
Welcome.
I start with my video too, but I don't see that. Okay.
We can see you.
Okay. Thank you very much for this possibility to make this presentation, to make this cooperation with Japanese city. We learned very much from Tokorozawa, and we see the problem of climate change, of the reaction our city to climate change in two positions. One position is this adaptation, and the second one is mitigation. But I, as chief city architect, can say how near are these two parts together. For example, I spoke about our cooperation in the part of greenery of the city on with raining problems, floods, etc. And I must say we started a big offensive in our city to make the the surfaces of our public space to possible permeable, to possible to zachować, no, zadržiavať zláškovú vodu. No. You understand, and it is very important. While one building which has around concrete surfaces or asphalt or etc. Has more need more energy for heating and cooling. It is the same problem, and when we change this public space around our buildings, and we as country, as Slovakia, we have in our city map has city many properties around our residential housing. It is other situation, as for example in our neighbor city Vienna. There is that private, but we have that public, and that is the possibility to make the energy nároky, energy demands is lower from our buildings. And now our cooperation was concentrated of greenery, while we have many problems with the quality of our greenery, with care of greenery, and we must with climate change we must change our arts of trees. For example, our places are too hot, the surfaces are too hot. We have these many heat islands in our city, and the trees in public spaces are in very bad condition. Where the problem is the heating of surfaces as stone or concrete. And the second problem we had is our legislation. This is the traditional problem in East Europe states, and we have that too. The legislation is on the national level, and very problematic is to make quickly decisions on the city level, when you understand. And we need more possibilities as city to make such decisions. They can help us to adaptate the city for climate change. But I am city chief architect, and I see every investment in Bratislava, and I have no this possibility to say you must make that more sustainable. You must make that permeable. The surfaces are, but the energy needs with other natural systems or passive housing, etc., etc. This possibility don't have. I can only speak with our investors, and my help is the international situation. And for example, our investors they are building such housing for administrative or offices housing, and they are looking for international firms and companies. They will come to Bratislava. They learned from other countries, other cities, and other buildings in Europe how important is to have on the market a green building. Yeah, and since 2011 we have in Bratislava and Slovakia two green building council, and we have a possibility to promote these ideas about green buildings. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ingrid. I think you already brought to the table quite a few interesting points. First of all, I think this idea that it's not just about the energy system per se and the integration that we need to bring forward, but also to think around the co-benefits of the actions that we do. If we have more greeneries, if we have nature-based solutions in our cities, we can defeat a little bit the highland effect and reduce the amount of cooling, for example, needed. So everything is really interconnected. And I think this is a very important point that we need to think about when we are looking to our vision for 2050. And the second aspect about the first barrier that you are mentioning, so this issue of legislation that sometimes is not always fit for purpose when it comes to local action. So I would like maybe to then ask again our colleagues on the line, and in particular our colleagues from Japan, is this the type of challenge that you are also facing? Is, for example, energy efficiency one of the drivers in your vision to 2050? Please do share with us your opinion and your insight.
日本の都市の皆様いかがでしょうか。例えば、今、ブラスチバーチャーがありましたので、例えば、所沢市さんとかいかがでしょうか。もしくは、豊田市さん、先ほどちょっとプレゼンでも、触れられたと思いますけども、何かございますでしょうか。
所沢市です。
お願いします。
はい。私の方からは、ちょっと太陽光の関係で今抱えている課題についてちょっとお話しさせていただきたいと思います。太陽光の方はですね、日本では分散型エネルギーということで、石炭火力ですとか原子力に頼らないように、電力の自給自足っていうところで、太陽光発電システムの普及推進というところが課題になっているんですけれども、私個人的に大きな課題2つあると思ってまして、一つ目はですね、価格面の問題ですね。やっぱり石炭火力、原子力と比べて価格競争力に乏しいというところで、以前はですね、フィット制度のおかげで、収益もある程度確保していきながら太陽光発電システムを導入できていたところがですね、今なかなか事業採算性が取れるような事業スキームの立案が難しくてですね、やっぱり市の職員として事業の提案をするところで苦慮しているところでございます。あともう一つ大事な観点としては安全性の部分です。なかなか日本の国土でですね、まとまった広い土地って確保できませんので、どうしても既存の建物の上ですとか、そういったところに乗せていくってなるとですね、やっぱり建物に与える重さの影響ですね、そういったところで、今いろいろな技術革新進んでいると思います。そういったところで価格の低減だけではなくてですね、ペロブスカイト系ですとか、薄膜で、建物に躯体に影響がかからないものを開発するですとか、あとはですね、蓄電池ですね。やっぱり太陽光の問題はですね、夜、発電することができないというところございますので、日中、発電した電力をですね、安定して夜間も供給できるように、安価な蓄電池っていうのが今、どんどん開発されてますけれども、そういったところがですね、克服されて課題として、主力電源となれるような形に位置づけられていけばいいなというふうに考えております。以上です。
はい、ありがとうございました。非常に価格面というのは日本の多くの都市でも問題となっているという課題となっていると思いますので、もしヨーロッパの都市から何かこれに関してコメントなりサジェスションなりあればいただきたいと思います。で、またその安全性ですね。やっぱり単に太陽光のパネルを増やすだけではなくて、やっぱりその建物への影響だとかいうものがありますので、そのあたり非常に新しいインサイトだったと思います。もしよろしければ他の日本の都市の方々いかがでしょうか。もしくはヨーロッパの都市の方でも結構ですが、よろしくお願いいたします。何かございますでしょうか。先ほど豊田さんいらっしゃいますか。いかがでしょうか。先ほど少しエネルギーの方のお話もいただいたんですが。
豊田氏です。
はい、よろしくお願いいたします。
やっぱりですね、エネルギーに関しては、当然再生可能エネルギーを増やすということも大事なんですけども、やっぱ省エネルギーというところも大事かなというふうに思っています。日本はやっぱり技術的にそういったところは優れているものですから、省エネルギーをどんどん増やしていくということと、再生エネルギーの組み合わせ、 あとですね、やはり森林CO2 の吸収ということで、森林保全というところもですね、非常に重要かというふうに思っています。豊田市ですね、8割、7割がですね、実は森林がございまして、そちらの整備の方にも非常に力を入れておりましてですね、そちらでの CO2 の吸収といったところが大事かなというふうに思っています。あとは、やはり先ほども話が出ました分散型ということで、なかなか大規模のですね、再生可能エネルギーの施設って難しいもんですから、できるだけ各家庭においてですね、分散型のエネルギーが重要かなということと、あと注目すべきは水力が私はいいかなというふうに思っていてですね、太陽光だとやはり稼働率が1日の3分の1以下で、多分年間通じると3分の1もいかないようなところだと思うんですけども、水力発電ですとほぼ24時間ですね、稼働率が 100% 取れるもんですから、例えば太陽光が4キロワットだとするとですね、多分水力だと1キロワット以下でもですね、十分、同じぐらいの電力が取れるかなというふうにすると、やはり水力の方が太陽光よりも優位性があるかなと。日本の方ではですね、九州の山が多いものですから、そういった川の水力が重要かなと。課題としてはですね、ちょっと海外はどうかわからないんですけど、日本はですね、水利権というのがございましてですね、その水を自由に使えるというのが、実は難しくてですね、たくさんエネルギーの損量はあるんですけども、それを自由に使えないっていう、その昔ながらのですね、しがらみといいますか、がありまして、これちょっともしかしたら海外では分かりにくい話かもしれないですけど、目の前にそういった電力の元があるんですけども、自由に使えないという、ちょっとそれが大きな課題かなというふうに考えております。以上です。
ありがとうございます。非常に課題を、挙げていただきましてありがとうございます。そうですね。豊田市、私も行かせていただいて非常に森林が豊かな都市だということで、非常にイメージと違ってすごいびっくりをして、その森林をうまく生かして行こうというようなところを、されていたのが非常に印象的だったと思います。Giorgia, have the Japanese cities had some interactions to the asking European cities to responding the somehow challenges which is posed by the Japanese cities. How about this? Giorgia, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah.
I think for sure there are many other solutions that have been implemented. I see that Eero, AILIO from the European Commission was talking about also existing low-tech solution for solar storage problems. So looking into also the possibility of utilizing, for example, all car batteries to store energy. So hinting to the fact that it's not only about accessing the technology, but also really trying to streamline a little bit what is available out there and to utilize it for our benefit. I think it will be worth it, though, nonetheless, trying to dig more a little bit into the challenges part. And I see that on the line we have indeed quite a few cities. I see, for example, Vitoria is with us and other European cities that might have some insight on how they have been looking into the transition for the future. And I would really like to invite them to also take the floor and to contribute to this conversation. One aspect that maybe I would be curious to know about is we mentioned now the economic aspect, that it's a little bit difficult when it comes to, for example, the pricing of solar energy for Japan. We mentioned some regulatory barrier and some impossibility, for example, some constraints in accessing the usage of, for example, water for hydropower. So we've already pinpointed a few aspects. Do you feel that there is any other key challenge that we need to solve right now in order to really move forward to the energy transition for 2050? For example, what about the engagement of the citizens, or what about the alignment of policies with other level? Is this something that persists as a challenge in your countries? Ingrid, I might need to ask you to kick off the conversation again. since you were brave to share your experience.
Hello.
How about
Hello.
engaging the citizens?
I spoke about our legislation and these problems with legislation in environment too. The current legislation environment in the field of construction in Slovakia is not ready to cope with demanding requirements arising from environmental and energy objectives in the context of climate crisis. Climate change mitigation and adaptation measures must be introduced into the construction legislation and regulation, including incentives for improving the practice in designing, building, renovating, as well as using the buildings. We understand our problem. Our problem are the buildings. They are from second half on 20th century. The construction sector, buildings and their operation consumes almost 40% of total energy and are responsible for almost 40% of CO2 emissions. And the current situation, however, represents an opportunity for the transformation of the construction industry, which may turn Slovakia and Bratislava into one of the modern and successful countries and cities. I am very optimistic. Thank you.
Thank you very much for complimenting that. One of the things that we hear quite often is that, of course, when it comes to this type of transition, and you're talking about improvement in the quality of the services such as transport, but also, and in particular, renovation of buildings, one of the things that it's mostly used as an argument for some challenges in raising, for example, the ambition of the standards, is that the private sector will not find interesting anymore to invest in a city where the standard of the quality of energy efficiency of the building is too high. Is this something that you face? Do you face challenges? And I'm asking also, of course, our cities in Japan. Is that something that you find as a challenge, convincing, bringing on board the private sector with the measures that are needed to drive the energy transition? I don't know, Yatsuka, if you want to encourage someone to share a bit on energy efficiency.
すいません。エネルギー効率だと、あとそれからプライベートセクター、企業の方を巻き込むというような観点で何かシェアをいただけません。例えば、今、そうですね。長野市さん、弘前さんとか見えてますけど、すいません。流しで申し訳ない。何かございますでしょうか。弘前さんとか、はい、何かございますでしょうか。あれば、ぜひご共有ください。コメント欄に書き込んでいただいても結構です。あとは、そうです。郡山市渡辺さんもいらっしゃいます。何かございませんか？共有いただけることございませんでしょうか？
Then maybe I would suggest that we, well, first of all, I would like to share what Eero is again posting in chat for us. Is mentioning that there are some distribution grids as a bottleneck in some parts of Japan for the spread of solar energy in particular. But he also tells us that says we plan to cooperate on sharing learning from Europe in making the grid accommodate more renewables with the help of different kinds of techniques and technology, including demand response. So that's good to know that we have some challenges indeed, but already we can look forward to some solutions ahead. And I think this could be a nice segue maybe to move on to the next question and move away a little bit from the challenges and trying to see what are the solutions that our cities are planning to implement by 2030 and 2050 to improve and to make their energy system future-proof. So what are the cities on the line today working on to integrate the energy system better, to fully exploit the possibility of the energy transition? Any inspiring projects that you are carrying out that you would like to share with us? I'm sure you do a lot, so I don't believe that it will be difficult to hear from you.
May I introduce myself? My name is John Garciñares. I come from Spain, from San Sebastian, which is a little city on the coast, north coast of Spain, next to the French border. I had a very wonderful interaction with the city of Hirosaki in Japan, and we learned quite a lot of things on how to progress to the decarbonization of cities. One thing which is quite important in our city, and I guess in other European cities, is that mobility is the main issue. We have 56% of our carbon emissions due to mobility. So, what are we doing about that? What we're doing is trying to make a more livable city in terms of mobility, in such a way that people can move easily by walking, then by biking, and then with public transport. How did we do that? Well, increasing the number of cyclable roads, increasing the number, the frequency of the public transportation, invested quite a lot in public transportation, and another key issue was to let's say buildings. Okay, now I'm moving from mobility to buildings. Another key issue in our emissions is that our buildings produce almost 40% of the emissions. So from 2009, we implemented a local policy on building, and the most important thing, on refurbishment of the buildings. Why? Because we have 80% of our buildings that are constructed before 1980, so they are crappy buildings in terms of energy efficiency. And then with that policy, it's now 10 years that we have that. We have been refurbishing 20% of our buildings. Now, we hope to go on with this, with an increase on the rate of refurbishments, because you have to arrive to 2050 almost to zero. This is a very important thing to do. Another thing is that before, in 2009, we were very bold because everybody said we were foolish people trying to implement this kind of policy. There was a state policy for the new construction of buildings, but nothing for refurbishment. So we said, no, we're going to go for refurbishment because it's the main problem in our city. Now is the day that the state policy has changed just this year, at the beginning of this year, and in Spain, the refurbishment has to be energy efficiency refurbishment. So, what do I mean by this? That we have to be bold. And also we have to have that something lucky or not. I mean, we have to have strong, bold politicians to support technical staff in all these things. Something we learned from Japan, from Hirosaki, was the increasing in PV in buildings. What we have done is we are now, it's 4 years or so that we are implementing solar PV on all the municipal roofs or buildings. And we are ahead on that, and we are doing a good job, I think. We are increasing very, very rapidly because PV, in my opinion, is one of the best technologies that we can apply now in buildings. At least in Europe, we have some problems with biofuels because of the particles, and there's a controversy in the population of this. And another big project that we have now, and this project is coming from Hirosaki's project on PV, which is exactly to put PV on an old landfill. We saw that in Hirosaki, and now we are trying to do so in our city, in the old landfill, because now we have, as Japanese do, how do you call that? For the garbage disposal, when you burn it.
Incineration?
Yeah, sorry, an incineration plant, right? Is that. And that is facing some political problems. We have a barrier on politics because some of them think that that old landfill should be used for other things, perhaps a golf field or something else. And I think we will have to share or the field or do something. I don't know how this is going to be solved, but we are on our way. Sorry to be so long. Thank you.
No, thank you very much. I would ask maybe then if there is any inspiring also solution or project being implemented from Japan. Yatsuka.
すいません。すいません。皆様、先ほど長さんから弘前市のお話が出たんですけど、弘前市さんおいでになりますでしょうか。何か、今取り組んでいらっしゃるようなプロジェクトのご紹介とかをいただくことは可能でしょうか。
弘前市ですけれども。
いらっしゃいますでしょうか。
弘前市ですけれども。聞こえますでしょうか。
はい、聞こえております。よろしくお願いいたします。
はい、今、弘前市は、エネルギー部門で、大きな動きはないんですけれども、昔からある歴史的な建物を美術館にリノベーションするなど、そういった建物を活用してですね、なんでしょう、簡単に潰してしまうことなくですね、そういったものを生かして、街並みを作っていくということで、今、頑張っているところです。ちょっと方向性は違いますけれども、当初の通り、引き続き取り組んでいるという事業になります。以上です。すみません。
ありがとうございます。弘前市さん、スマートシティとかもいろいろやられてると思うんですけど、何かその辺でございますでしょうか。今
ですね、今検証中なのは、 駅前の、新たに区画整理をした、ところにですね、地下水を使った、融雪、雪を溶かすような、システム作りを、検証しています。ちょっとまだ課題は多いんですけれども、そういった循環型の、雪国というところでですね、そういったものを解決するような取り組みに、をしているところでございます。以上です。
ありがとうございます。はい、日本のその北の方と、やっぱ融雪に対するエネルギーって非常に課題というかなっておりまして、そういう意味では地下水の利用を街中で進められているというのが非常に、印象的です。あと、また、古い建物の改修とか、そこに、よりエネルギー効率の良いものを入れるというのは、EU でもそういう、私もアンコーナーに行かせていただいた時とかにも、そういう古い建物を改修して、よりエネルギー効率の高いものを入れて、古いものを残しながら新しい技術を導入するというのを EU でも非常に盛んにやられていたのは非常に印象的だったので、他の EU の都市の方も、そういうことの経験があるのかなというふうに思いました。他、日本の皆様で何かございますでしょうか。ぜひ、いろいろ省エネとか、再エネで取り組みを進めようとされているところもあると思うんですが、そういう今されていること、もしくは今後されようとしているところで何か共有いただけませんでしょうか。長野市さんいらっしゃいますでしょうか。すいません、ピンポイントでお伺いして申し訳ないのですが、何かございますでしょうか。
はい、長野市です。聞こえますでしょうか。
はい、ありがとうございます。すいません、ちょっと急にお願いしまして、よろしくお願いいたします。
長野市の新井です。聞こえますでしょうか。
はい、聞こえております。
聞こえてるの？聞こえてない。
聞こえております。聞こえておりますか？
聞こえてますか？こちらに知りますか？
OK です。OK です。
失礼しました。失礼しました。改めまして、長野市の新井です。はい。少しだけ事例をお話しさせていただきます。長野市ではですね、先ほどから話出ております、太陽光ですとか、木質バイオマスですとか、様々な再生可能エネルギーの利活用を取り組んでいるところなんですけれども、2050年ということを意識して、今、考え始めておりますのは、電力ですね。低炭素な電力をいかに広めていくかというところに注目しています。長野市では、地域の木質バイオマス発電所の電力を、市役所庁舎で活用しております。また、ですね、公共のゴミ処理施設の電力を、長野市立の、小中高校、すべての学校の、電力をそれで賄っております。そうしたですね、ことによりまして、低炭素化が図られるとともに、若干ですけれども、電力料金の低下にもつなげているということが成果として挙げられます。これをですね、どのような形で市民に落とし込んでいくか、市民の方にもこの利益をですね、共有していただくかというところが、これから後のですね、検討課題かなというふうに考えております。先ほど、民間の方の力を借りてということになる、ということが出ておりましたけれども、民間の電力事業者さんとですね、そのあたりを共有していくというのが、長野市の考え方に近いのかなというふうに考えております。私から以上です。
はい、ありがとうございました。市民の方々に理解して使っていただくと非常に重要な点だと思いますし、そういう意味で、民間の方々も、民間の企業の、電力会社さんとかとも協力してというところがあると思います。その他日本の皆様でご発言いただいてない方で何かございましたら、お願いをしたいのですが、
郡山市なんですが、よろしいですか。
はい、渡辺さんよろしくお願いいたします。
郡山市産業創出課の渡辺と申します。このような機会いただきましてありがとうございます。で、私産業振興部門で、ちょっとエネルギー部門とはちょっと別の部署になるんですが、郡山市のエネルギー関係の取り組みの方をですね、いくつかご紹介させていただきたいと思います。 で、郡山市の方では今取り組んでいるのが、まず一つ目が、地域新電力をですね、来年度から設立することを予定しておりまして、これはIUC のプログラムでですね、エッセン市と連携させていただいたおかげで、ちょっと生まれた事業といっても過言ではないんですが、昨年の8月にエッセン市の方に、シュタットベルケの視察をさせていただきまして、で、エネルギーの地産地消という観点でですね、地域の再生可能エネルギーを最大限に活用しようというような観点で、現在地域新電力の、設立に向けてですね、市の方で今準備の方を進めているようなところです。で、来年とですね、再来年の1月から具体的にその電力を小売りするような計画をしておりまして、で、一応市内にあるクリーンセッター、ゴミ焼却施設ですね。で、そこで作り出されたエネルギーなんかを活用しながら、事業の方は進めていくようなことを考えております。で、もう一点が、郡山市の方では、水素の利活用に力を入れておりまして、で、郡山市の方で独自水素利活用推進研究会というような、官民連携のプラットフォームを、勉強会のようなものなんですが、結成しましてですね、そういったところに、水素で、主にモビリティのところでの活用をですね、中心に話をしているんですが、郡山市内の方に、来年ですね、新しく、水素ステーションの方が一つできる予定になっておりますので、今、市の方でも水素自動車の導入をですね、積極的に、推進の方はしているんですが、県の方と国の方でいろいろ補助金なんかも水素自動車には入りますので、そういったところも含めてですね、モビリティのところでの水素の利活用というところにですね、少し、注目して今、事業を展開しているようなところです。郡山市から今、大きくはその2つが、郡山市からの、エネルギー関係の、ご紹介でした。以上です。
ありがとうございます。昨日に引き続きありがとうございます。はい。今、ご紹介がありました地域新電力、日本ではいろんな自治体が、出資もしくは協力という形で、地域の再生エネルギーを中心にしたその地域新電力というのを設立して、エネルギーの地産地消を進めていこうという動きが非常に全国的に広まっていると思います。郡山さんの取り組みもその一つだと思いますし、非常にドイツのシュタットベルケの取り組みに倣ってっていうところがありまして、非常に日本でそういう考え方が盛んだということを共有させていただきたいと思いますし、水素もいろいろな自治体で実験的に今やられていまして、先ほどのグラノーブルの発表にございましたけれども、やっぱり水素って一つ今後のエネルギーとして EU と共有できるような技術の関係なのかなというふうに思いました。Giorgia, do you have anything from the EU side, EU cities? Could you encourage them to respond to Japanese cities?
Thank you very much, Yatsuka. And also thank you to all the cities for sharing their own projects and what they are busy doing. I think the fact that several times I heard we learn from our counterpart in Europe or we exchange with our counterpart in Japan, this is very much what we wanted to see happening within this program. So it's extremely exciting to hear how things that have been exchanged upon will start to become active in a couple of years. We just heard, for example, about decentralized energy approaches. So really looking forward to the next steps of that. I think Ingrid from Bratislava had something that she wanted to share with us also in terms of what the city is doing. Ingrid, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you. I forgot to say how important is our greenery in our city in neighbor situation to the residential quarters in COVID crisis. What? In COVID crisis. It is a very important topic for our city now, while we are thinking about how we can use our natural resources of Bratislava, of the city, how we can liberalization our energy market. It is very important topic now, and we try with one European project to plan to create e-community. it is. I wanted that to say we have such plans to make our urban districts not only attractive for living, but attractive for health living, and it is very important to have near the best social and medical facilities. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think also going back to this topic of co-benefits, again, Ingrid, for taking us there, this is extremely important. Of course, the transition of the energy system is not just about the technologies, but also thinking around new ways to include citizens, and we talked about decentralized renewable energy a few minutes ago, also being sprouting so much in Japan, but also looking into what kind of health benefits can be brought by the transition itself, and how it can really become also a new trigger for new developments, new skills, new jobs, like, for example, we saw in the example of Grenoble. Yes. So there is definitely a lot to explore there. I'm conscious of time, so maybe I would like to conclude with one final question to the colleagues on the line, both cities from Japan and from Europe. We took ourselves a little bit along this journey of how we see our 2050 climate neutral cities energy system looking like. Maybe I would like to ask you if you would like to share with us your priority. What is the thing that you are planning to do as one of the most important steps to set yourself up for that objective in the future? Can you share with us one action that you would like to see implemented? Maybe Ingrid, I'll pick on you again for this one to start with, but also I would like to hear maybe from Jon, if you can identify one priority action that you think will be good to explore.
For us now, the most important action, as I said before, is the PV implementation. Why? Because that's the only renewable energy that we can fit into this city. We have tried to see if we could go with wind energy or another kind of renewables, but the one that most fits to our city is PV. So our project on the old landfill could mean the whole difference in being responsible city in terms of achieving the neutral carbon city by 2050. It's a lot of megawatts, so we need. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ingrid.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. We are now in the time of change of our zoning plan, and the first time we made a capital about we made a capital about climate change, about necessity for preamble surfaces on the properties by investments, etc. And this is the first one. The second one is we make this project with about e-community, about to build an e-community. We try that in our city near the new tram axis. And this tram axis is also in green, only green. The tram, sorry, it is a green project, and with green roofs, for example, the waitings buildings are green, and this about spoke our mayor. We are planting in our city 10,000 trees, but we must care about these trees in our future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. maybe then I would like to give the opportunity to a couple of Japanese cities if they wish to share their priority or the action that they are busy doing right now to reach this transition to a more sustainable energy system.
日本から何かございますでしょうか。まだご発言されてない、神戸市さん、港湾局さんで、港湾でも結構ですね、何かございますでしょうか。プライオリティ、エネルギー関係、港湾で何かございますでしょうか。すいません。急に振りますが。
すいません、神戸市ですけども、港湾部門ということで、
はい、港湾部門で結構です。何かございますか。
エネルギーそのものということではないんですが、港湾ということで言うと、一つ船での輸送については、車とかの輸送に比べると非常に省エネだという、モーダルシフトっていう考えがあるわけなんですけども、やっぱ港湾の利用を進めてですね、やっていくっていうことについては、この CO2 削減に大きく寄与するのかなということで、モーダルシフトの取り組みっていうのを進めています。もちろん、これは今問題になっている、労働力の、労働力が少なくなっているという問題についても対応できるということで、特に神戸港は西日本のハブ港として、動いてますので、そういった取り組みも一つ、貢献ができるのかなと思っています。以上です。
ありがとうございます。ジョージから2つというふうにあったんですけど、他にございますでしょうか。今日ご発表いただいた、豊田市さん、所沢市さん、何かございますでしょうか。何か一つ、目玉政策というのがありましたら、皆様ご協力いただきたいのですが、ございますでしょうか。
所沢市です。
ありがとうございます。はい。
はい。目玉の政策というとですね、なかなか申し上げづらい部分もあるんですけれども、と言いますのもですね、ブラティスラバの方、2022年までに、1万本植樹します。本当に素晴らしい大きなプロジェクトだと思います。所沢市の方でもですね、今ある自然をいかに生かしていくか、またですね、新しい緑地を市街地にどうやって創出していくか、そういったところを苦慮しているところでございます。市民の方ですとか、ボランティアの方、所沢市大変恵まれてまして、多くの方がですね、積極的に緑化活動に関わっていただいてます。で、市の方ではですね、やっぱりその今ある緑地を維持していくのに、やっぱりお金ですとか、資材ですとか、そういったものがですね、かなりかかってきますので、市の方でそういった援助をしながらですね、その市民の方と共同して、今ある緑を生かしていくことで、ネイチャーベーストソリューションなんて言われ方をしますけれども、地球温暖化のですね、緩和と適用と両輪でこなしていきたいと、そういうふうに考えています。大きな目玉というよりは、サステナビリティですね。持続可能な形で、お互いその可能な範囲で協力して、今あるものを生かしていこうと、そういう形で頑張っていきたいなというふうに考えております。以上です。
ありがとうございます。非常に緩和と適用同時にコベネフィットでやっていくっていうのは非常に大事な視点だと思いますし、ネイチャーベーストソリューションということも非常に重要だと思います。おそらくその、コロナの話でですね、自然とどういうふうに共生していくかというところで、都市緑化っていうのも非常に今注目されて始めていると思いますので、そういう観点からも非常に重要なご指摘だったと思います。Giorgia, this is already
I'm not sure whether there is any other comment or anyone that wants to share anything. This is your last chance. I wouldn't miss it.
Okay. So I saw the Noriko mentioned maybe someone from Kamakura City joining us. From Kamakura City, do you have any comments? すみません、鎌倉市からご参加しているというふうにお伺いしたのですが、 何か、せっかくですので、何かコメントをいただけるとありがたいのですが、何かございますでしょうか。
すみません、鎌倉市です。
すいません、急に振りましてよろしくお願いします。
環境不ないなんで、やっぱ、時のアイジェスさんの方の USB をさせていただいて、というところで、鎌倉市の取り組んでいるものの取り組みだけちょっと紹介させていただくと、多くの皆さんでは当たり前かもしれないんですけど、鎌倉市の新しい取り組みとしては、再生可能エネルギーの導入をすることして、市の施設にですね、再生可能エネルギー 100% 電力を今後導入していく予定になっています。で、市の57施設に一気に導入する予定になっていて、日本では、進んでいる取り組みということで、環境部門の方から聞いております。すみません、以上です。
ありがとうございます。一気にというところが非常に力強かったかと思います。ありがとうございます。他の、自治体の方も何かございますでしょうか。もしよろしければ、コメント欄とかに書き込んでいただいても構いませんので、ぜひお願いします。何かございますでしょうか。最後に一言。
And even after the event, if you like, we are very happy to collect all of your input.
Yes. 今、画面に映っております、ところにですね、皆様からいただいたコメントを貼り付けてですね、後から共有させていただきますので、ぜひ、皆様コメント欄とか、あっても結構ですので、コメントいただきましたら、ぜひ、これに貼ってですね、この、セッションの、このパートの、結果としたいと思いますので、ぜひ、この場でご発言いただかなかったことでも、何かございましたら、ぜひ、共有いただければと思います。Giorgia? Yeah, I'll pass to you.
Okay. In the interest of time, Yatsuka, if you agree, maybe I think we can get close to an end.
Yes.
Yes. So first of all, I want to thank very, very much everyone for taking part today, the colleagues from the European Commission for sharing their insight, Professor Imura for his great sharing, and of course my co-moderator Yatsuka KATAOKA. Thank you very much for facilitating the process. I also want to thank Nicola very much for his support and for, as you can see, drawing a first picture of our discussion today, which you will be able to access at a later stage. I also want to thank the interpreters for the great job that they have done in supporting us to understand each other. And of course, all the speakers that share their insights, the ones that are online, the ones that are not, and they will follow us probably listening to our recording, as well as to all the cities that have really been sharing their experiences and speaking up about what they are doing. And I have to say, incredible examples of different actions in so many directions that are being undertaken. So maybe to conclude, I think that the discussion today was very interesting, of course, and it also shows how all of us somehow have already in mind that we need to shift toward a 2050 climate neutral city. It's something that has to be done because science is requiring us to do that. Our societies are requiring us to do that. And most of all, because of course, this is what our local governments do. They try to be more sustainable and to ensure a better quality of life for our citizens. I think that the journey around the energy transition is an essential one. We spoke about several different indicators in terms of emissions that, of course, the energy sector is contributing with, but also the importance of leveraging this great potential of transformation that the energy system also allows, looking into benefits, but also the co-benefits that have been listed so many times within our discussion, tackling energy poverty, engaging citizens, improving the quality of the housing, for example, that our citizens are living in, raising energy efficiency, connecting to more sustainable transport, and testing new technologies such as hydrogen that is clearly, of course, taking up also in our planning and in the measures that are being implemented. Nonetheless, a few challenges indeed were also listed. We talked about a little bit the regulatory aspect still being a little bit of an issue in some of our cities and in some of our countries, but also the access to resources, be them financial resources, but also natural resources in some instances. And then finally, the important work ahead of us in identifying new and innovative financing schemes and business models that can support this transition to really take place. Of course, this we did not discuss maybe to very much in depth, but for me, it's also very important to reiterate the importance of multi-level governance. And we got kicked off into this conversation by Mr. NIESSLER this morning, highlighting how the alignment of policy at the national, local, and regional level, but also within the departments in our local government is still something that needs to be somehow strengthened for our future in order to have more effective transitions. Nonetheless, I think that the final message that I really want to share and to leave you with is everyone seemed to be extremely happy with the opportunity of exchanging with one another and really highlighting the importance of continuing to brainstorm all together on what possible solutions are there. Of course, we are all very mindful of the fact that it cannot be a copy-paste process, but we need to discuss and sit down around our virtual tables, unfortunately, at the moment, and to really try to learn from one another and to be inspired by the solutions that are being undertaken, being them in creating more decentralized and renewable energy systems, being them in learning how to fully exploit the benefits of nature-based solutions for our future and for our green recovery, be them to just learn from one another and appreciate what we are doing for our citizens in our own respective country and for the good of course, of tackling the global challenges ahead of us. So with this, I really want to finally thank you once again. And I really appreciate the opportunity of exchanging with you. And I hope to see you on Thursday to talk about circular economy and how that can drive really a more sustainable future for our economies and, of course, also for our societies. And from the IUC Coordination Unit and on behalf also of IUC Japan, thank you for your time, and we really look forward to continuing the dialogue with you, and we will share the recording, the presentation, and of course also the output of the discussion as soon as possible. We wish you an amazing evening and looking forward to seeing you on Thursday. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much. We should like to conclude this session. Just the day after tomorrow, just on the exactly same time, we will have next session on circular economy. So I wish be sure to participate on the session on next session on Thursday. See you again. Okay, thank you. Okay.